Hey, thanks for having me here today. I am really excited to be here. I get asked fairly regularly to come and to talk to the different colleges in the state and stuff on real estate, and I don't know how I got on that list, but it keeps coming up, and I keep enjoying it. You know, that they say that the number one fear people have is public speaking. Okay, and the number 2 fear is death. So what that means is you can go to a funeral, and if you're given the eulogy, you really would rather be in a casket. So that's kind of not the way I feel. I enjoy public speaking, and when people ask me, I'm always just a willing participant. I like it. I've gotten a lot of flack from Whitney and from everybody in this century on my foam board here, and I've used this foam board for years, and a lot of students and people have seen that foam board over the years. I was at Subway the other day, and this guy came up to me, this young man. He says, "Hey, you talked to me, and I loved it." And I said, "Well, what'd you love about it?" He says, "You gave away money." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." So I give away money so people will listen. Okay. So one of you here, not on the video, but here, will have a chance. Now let me tell you something about this foam board too. It takes me back to a dear friend of mine, Larry Miller. And I know you've all heard of Larry. You know, he's been gone for a few years, but he was a dear friend of mine. And I remember one day I said, "Hey Larry, I'll just email that to you." And he goes, "Oh, no, don't email. And I go, "Well, how come?" And he goes, "I don't know how to log on." And I go, "You gotta be kidding me." And he goes, "No, I don't know how to log on." He says, "I like to do everything face to face. And so if you want me, you just call me." And so that was kind of his deal. Now he did say, now that doesn't mean that Gail and my 6 secretaries don't know how to log on. He said, they know how to log on, but I don't know how to log on. So today, my first laptop is coming. It's on its way. It should be at my office when I get back. I've been forced into it with the Zoom. I usually just use the sit-down computer. And I do know how to log on, however. So I'm a little old-fashioned, but I come from a generation of old-fashioned guys. And that some of us know how to log on and some don't. But Larry Miller was a great benefactor of this college, and he was a great man. And Gail has, you know, I talk to her often, and she has a great love for this college, and so do I. Okay, and I've dealt with the college for a lot of years because this building right here, and that's your downtown campus. But that's a campus that I'm associated with. So I've dealt with Salt Lake Community College, and it's been a great experience. I've never had a bad experience with the college. And like I was telling Whitney, my mother used to always say, "Marry a teacher," because I married a principal, and he's a great man, and I want you to marry a teacher. Didn't work out like she wanted. But a lot of times the people who ask me to come and talk to them, they want to know what direction they should take, and a lot of people are interested in real estate. And a lot of that real estate excitement comes from watching late night cable. And that late night cable says, "Hey, look, you can flip this house, or you can become a multimillionaire with real estate, and you can do all this stuff, and it's the easiest thing you've ever done." You can do all of that, but it's not the easiest thing you've ever done. And I always tell students, and particularly you guys are in really critical spots in your lives right now, and that is, what direction do I go? What should I major in? What should I get my advanced degree in? You know, what should I do? And I always tell people to, first of all, pick your lifestyle. You have to pick your lifestyle, and then you can pick what your occupation is. Now, that's probably the wrong way to do it, but that's the way I did it, and that's my father, like I say, he was an elementary school principal. He wanted to be with his family during the summer, and he wanted to be able to travel, and so he became a principal. And if he had been something else, he wouldn't have been able to do that. He wouldn't have been able to take the summers off, and he would bring us up to Utah. We lived in Arizona. He'd bring us up to Utah to a ranch that he had here, and we'd just work on the ranch all summer. I thought I was the luckiest guy in the world because I didn't have to pay anybody to ride these horses and bale that hay. It was just the most magnificent experience I've ever had. And so pick your lifestyle. If you want to be of service to people, then get in the nursing program here. You know, if you want to be an engineer, pick your lifestyle first. I once worked with a guy where I was loading up down Arizona as a youth. I was loading up all the garbage onto this garbage truck around houses that were being built. And he kept telling me, I want to be a millionaire. He said, I am going to be a millionaire by the age of 30. And I sat there and I thought, that's going to be a little hard because we're just pushing these garbage can things up on this deal and we're only making a little teeny bit. And so you have to pick your occupation. Money should not necessarily be the commanding factor, but what do you want your life to be? And then, because what's your name?
Jasmine.
Jasmine? Okay, Jasmine would do well at 10 different things, okay? And 10 different things she would enjoy. And she would do well at those. And so that's why I'm saying, pick your lifestyle and then pick your occupation. So anyway, I started collecting real estate when I was pretty young. My dad kind of nudged me into that a little bit, and I just kept at it. I remember one time I was coming down from actually Sherwood Hills, which is in Logan. I was managing a property there for the government. And I was with my attorney. This was so many years, you guys could all be my kids, including Whitney. And she said, Mark, what do you want to do with your life? And I said, I want to have enough properties that generate $200 a month, and I need it so that it amounts to $1,200 a month, because my house payment was $300. And I thought, at $1,200, I'm rich. So I started accumulating little condos that nobody wanted, and that I thought, okay, now I can get this to generate, you know, that $200 a month. And so once I hit $1,200, I was a free man. And I went out on my own and started accumulating different properties. Okay, so like I say, pick what you want to do, kind of put out there a plan. And I think that would be good. Warren Buffett, he's one of the richest guys in America, he always said the best deals are on Main Street. Okay? The best deals are on Main Street. He says he does all these big deals all over the world, but there's very few opportunities around the world. Because he buys so big, there's just very few opportunities. He says the best deals are on Main Street, which is out here, out on Redwood Road, out on, you know, Main Street. And so you don't have to look far to find good deals, okay? And that's kind of what he was saying. Now, I have this next thing kind of categorized on change the way you look at real estate. And everybody here looks at real estate and says, because it's going to be probably one of the biggest purchases in your life. But you can look at a home and say, you know, someday I'm going to have to buy a home. Even if you don't want to go into real estate, you'll probably have to buy a home. And I want you here to change the way you look at real estate. Let me explain that. Research is the key, okay? If if you're looking, you know, for a home, then you want to make sure you're paying the least amount for the most you can get. If you walk in, my son does this with trucks. He walks in, they roll out the red carpet, give him a water, and say, hey, let me sell you a truck. He buys the first thing that comes along. He loses so much money that way. And that's the way you can't do it. You have to research it out. Okay, if I'm going to buy this house, then how much is that one that's very similar to it? And make those comparisons. Is it better or is it worse? But you have to think in a different realm. And let me explain that. I have the reputation, most of my properties are commercial properties. And I started out with homes and then went into commercial properties. But I have this reputation around town of I don't want to buy anything unless there's a dead bird in the lobby. Okay? Unless there's a dead bird in the lobby, I don't want to buy it. And a lot of the office buildings that I have purchased, you walk in, there's a dead bird in the lobby. It's almost like an omen. So I have this big broker in town, and he calls me 6 years ago, 5 years ago. And he says, hey, and he didn't know me. He just said, hey, I heard that you have to have a dead bird in the lobby in order to buy. And I said, well, yeah, that's right. And he goes, would 2 bums in the lobby substitute for that dead bird in the lobby? And I said, that will work. I'll take a look. So I went and took a look. There were 2 bums in the lobby. We had to walk over them. And I'm like, okay, I'll take a look at this. So how much were they asking for that building? They were asking $4 million. Okay? $4 million. So what do you think my offer was? You over here with the drink.
Amen.
Here, what do you think my offer was? If they were asking $4 million, what do you think my offer was? Just take a guess.
Sorry, like I couldn't understand a little bit, so I used the translate, so I missed the sum of part. Yeah.
I'm sorry. Well,
Yeah.
any guesses?
2 million.
2 million?
I'm gonna guess 2.
2? You're gonna guess 2? 2? Okay. So 4 million was what they're asking, and I came in at 900,000.
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay. And I'm like, yeah, 900. Oh, there's 2 bums in the lobby. How can I pay you 4 million? I gotta pay 900,000. Okay? And he's like, whoa, wow. Well, write it up. So I wrote it up. And what did the owners do? Nothing. They sat on it. They didn't do anything. They wouldn't even respond. It was so low. Okay? They wouldn't even respond. So, you know, I let a few weeks go by. And then I go, okay. $1 million. I'll give you $1 million. No answer. And finally, I got to $1.5 million. And I had worn them down. They said, okay, $1.5 million. You know, and I'm like, okay. The point is, I started out at 4 and ended up at $1.5 million. Okay? And that's what's great about real estate is there's no set value. They can be asking for, and you can say, no, I'm going to pay 9. Now you have to kind of have thick, you know, whatever. I've never had anybody yell at me or anything like that. Well, there was one guy that was a little heated. But I gave him a good offer, and he actually sold it for that offer a year later. But anyway, that's a whole other story for another day. So my point is, think about it differently. But only your research is going to be able to help you. And that's this. If I knew, that actually was that building. But if I actually knew, you know, didn't know anything about it, and the mortgage was $5 million, I'm telling them 9, you know, they're not gonna. You have to research it out. I researched that building out, and I knew it was free and clear. I knew it was a family trust. I knew those bums had a long-term lease in that lobby because they've been there a long time. Okay, And I thought, you know, these kids in this trust are tired of maintaining this thing, and so I'm going to come in at a low offer, okay? And so, like I say, if they'd owed $5 or $6 million, I can't buy from them, because I don't want to pay up here when the value's down here, in my mind. So I have this thing in my office, people are always saying this. I said, hey, I'm thinking of making an offer on this building. Well, we know it's going to be half the value, and it is. Sometimes it's even lower than half the value. But think differently. Now, if you go to buy a house, and it's in a family trust, or an elderly person who's like, I got to get out of here, and I don't want to repair this or whatever, then you make an offer. Like I say, if they have a big mortgage, it probably isn't going to work that way for you. But it's all in the research. It's all in the research. There is another way that I have negotiated, and I want to tell you that one too. And that one has to do with this $20. And you guys may not be able to spot this, but does anybody here know where this painting is out of? Let me just take that off. Whoever can figure it out, I've got a crisp 20 right here. Crisp 20.
What gallery you mean?
No, not in the gallery. I will give you a hint. One of the reasons that I love coming out here today, this isn't a good hint, but it'll tell you the environment in which this painting comes from. One of the reasons I love coming out here is because my favorite gourmet restaurant is out here. And that's In-N-Out Burger. And so I love coming out. It's only, a mile that way. And so that gives you a little bit of hint that I love burgers. Okay? I'm gonna leave this 20 here because someone's gonna figure it out. And if not, I'll give you some more help. Anybody figure that out? It sat in a burger place for years and years and years. Every time I went in the burger place, this is a painting that is 3 feet tall by 12 feet long. Okay? It's a magnificent painting. And every time I went into that hamburger place, I would say, I gotta own that someday. I gotta buy that. And it would just sit there for years and years. And one day I came in and it was off the wall. And so I go up to the counter and I go, where's the painting? They're like, well, we're remodeling this and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, well, I said, I want to buy that painting. Is it for sale? And he said, yeah, it's for sale, but you have to call in the morning. And I go, well, okay, I'm the buyer. You just tell me what I owe, and I'm buying that painting. I wanted it for so long. And next day I called at 10:01 because he said he'd be in at 10. So 10:01, I called and I said, hey, I'm here to buy that painting. I hear it's going to be available. Yeah, it's available. And he goes, well, how much are you willing to pay me? Okay? How much are you willing to pay me? Now you have to, this is another negotiating tactic. And I said, well, you don't want me to say. And he goes, no, you say. And I said, no, you don't want me to say because all my negotiations start at 0 on things like this. So, okay, I'm a 0, now it's your turn. Okay? Now, you've got to remember that because it's going to be critical throughout your life. If someone wants you to name a price, all you do is say, my negotiations start at 0. So I'm at 0. And the guy says, well, I can't give it away. And I'm like, oh, okay. And he set a price, I doubled it, and came out here, because there's a there's a branch out, there's a hamburger joint out here that's owned by them. I'm giving you tips. And I paid him double what he asked and got the most amazing price in the world. I just said, no, I can't pay that. Let's double what you're saying and then I'll come pick it up. My point here is to look at real estate. Now you gotta figure it out because there's a branch of this downtown, there's a branch of this out in West Valley, there's a branch in Provo. Okay. It's gonna come to you. You look real careful at these logos right here. You know, we may have to come up with another way to earn this 20.
Why don't you get it closer to everyone?
Yeah, I'm not walking away unless somebody earns this 20. I'm not leaving the room. You can't hold me hostage for a 20. Okay, so anyway, that's what I'm trying to tell you. I can go over each one of these buildings. This one, that's the college one, and that one was the same thing. I researched it out. The guy was in California, had been vacant. The Attorney General's office was there. It had been vacant for years. And so I found out, okay, who's the seller on this? And I found out that it was an elderly gentleman in California that owned a water company. Well, I don't have any friends that own a water company, you know? What do you do for that? I own a water company. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, this guy's loaded, and he doesn't want to care. He doesn't want to take care of that property. So you come in with your values, and then you determine the price. This one right here, I don't know if you remember this one right. That's downtown. This is where all the protests have been taking place on this corner. But this one here was owned by Lehman Brothers in New York, and they had a $2.5–3 million loan on it, and they put it on the market. And I said, well, I'll pay you $650. $650? No way. I go, okay, all right. You have to be patient, and you have to be able to take arrows. And they went away, and I went away for a year. And after a year, they came back to me, Lehman Brothers on Wall Street, those guys, and they said, okay, Finlinson, we'll take your $650. And I go, oh, well, you know, that was last year's price. And now it's a different year, and now it's $550. And they're like, don't you dare do that to us, Finlinson. And I go, well, no, it's a different year, and I'm now at $550. Oh, okay. So they did the deal. My point is, there's no rules to the negotiating deal. It's whatever a buyer and a seller agree to. There's no rules, okay? And if you want to be polite, you know what I'm saying? I could have easily said, oh, you're into that $3 million. I don't want you to take a loss. Let's work this out. No, you can't do it that way if you want to be in real estate as a profession. And when I say real estate, I'm a landlord. Okay, that's what people ask me what I do for a living. I tell them I'm a landlord. Okay, because that's what I do as a landlord. And so unless you're buying right, you're going to go broke real fast. So in real estate itself, there's a lot of things you can do, and that is landlording, developing. I develop also, which is building properties sometimes. You know, real estate sales, which you can make decent money in that if you work hard. And at the end of this discussion, I'm going to tell you what the secret of success is. Okay, so you have to listen very carefully, because that's one of the biggest questions I get when I come and speak at colleges and things is, what is the secret of success? And I don't know why they're asking me, but you know what I'm saying. I do have an answer after lots of years. I have an answer. Anyway, a couple of other things that I want to go over, and that is in real estate in particular. And and this is mainly on buying, because I'm mainly a buyer and not a seller. Sometimes I'll sell, but mainly I'm just a buyer and a renter, a landlord tenant. But these are just suggestions. Don't ever rely on the government, okay? Don't ever rely on the government. That's a critical point. And the reason I say that is, you know, years ago, probably 20 years ago, the government gave you accelerated depreciation on these buildings. And so, particularly, a lot of people were going because they could depreciate it. So if you make this much money and you have this big mortgage over here, you never have to pay taxes because you can accelerate the depreciation. It gets into a CPA deal. And I'm not that good at CPA, and I hire people who I think are good. But they were accelerating the depreciation. So everyone wanted to buy. So they were buying. And so what happens when everyone's buying, the prices go up like this. And then all of a sudden, in one legislative deal, they said, no longer accelerated depreciation. The prices went rock bottom. So all these people who had purchased it based on a government accelerated depreciation lost tons of money. There were just billions and billions around the United States that were just wiped away because of that. And so don't ever purchase based on the government, because the government will always, one way or the other, seem to come around and hurt you a little bit.
What about interest rates, though? I mean, they're controlled by the government, so how does that work into it?
Well, that's different because you can tie into an interest rate. Like right now, my son just got a loan for 2.5% for 30 years. And you're tied into that for 30 years. Great deal, okay? The problem that we haven't seen yet, which we're going to see, and that is as interest rates go up, the values go down. Because my son just bought this big, beautiful, gorgeous house in the hills in Bountiful, and it's magnificent. I'm telling him, it's nicer than my house. How'd you do that? And he's like, Dad, because of the interest rate change, my payment's the same. And so that's okay, but as interest rates rise, and like I say, I'm an old man, but I remember when prime was 21%. Okay, now think about that. 21% was prime, which prime is the amount that the banks give their favored customers. Okay, and it was 21%. Okay, and so I'm not saying that's coming back immediately, but that was to curb inflation in the United States. So if you can get into a loan that's in 30 years this thing pays out and it pays out at this interest rate, it's a good thing. But just know that right now prices are higher than they've ever been, and so as rates go up, your values are going to come down. So don't, this leads into my next thing. And my next thing is, you guys, I was at school one day, and this visiting guy came and spoke to my business class, and he said, I've made and lost more money than you guys will ever make in your entire life. And I just looked at him and I'm like, man, I wouldn't be bragging about that. I would be embarrassed. And then I had another guy come and he said, whatever you guys do, right now is the time and to start thinking about it. And this is my message is to you, and that is this. Lead a frugal life. Okay? You can't, I don't know. If you're going out and getting a new car, and if you just got a new car, that's great. My first new car was from Larry Miller 7-8 years ago. You know what I'm saying? Because I thought, man, this depreciates too fast. And I only bought it because the used one, I have a Honda Element. Okay? And and they were going for 20,000 new and 19,500 used. So I bought it, and that was, it's 2015. I still have that car. I still have that car. Now, don't get me wrong, it's at my beach house in Newport Beach, but I still have that car, okay? And so what I'm trying to tell you is, the other guy that came and spoke to us, he said, drive the biggest beater Volkswagen that you can when you're in this period of your life, because you need to be saving your money, paying off loans, save, save, save. And when I say save, by paying down a mortgage, you're actually saving and giving yourself a raise. But if you go out and start spending, my college days, I love my college days. I had a Toyota Corolla Mark II. You guys have never seen something like this. It was so beautiful. I mean, girls would barely go out on a date with me. And every time I would stop, I'd have to put a pan underneath the engine, collect the oil. Then when I was ready to go, I'd pop the hood, put the oil back in, and we were ready to go. You know, that baby never failed me. Okay? And what I'm trying to say is, you guys are all young. You're all young, and now's the time to be living frugally, buying real estate, or paying off mortgages, or you know, just doing things that are frugal. And I always tell my kids, you know, those are the funnest times in your life, is when you're in school, you're learning things, and those are just the funnest times that you'll talk about the rest of your life. And so I'm trying to emphasize to everybody here, don't ever brag about how much you're losing. Brag about how much you're saving, or how much, the only protection you have in this old society is paying off mortgages, paying off cars, paying off. And anybody can live the high life. Anybody can live the high life. But I used to have a secretary that was a cousin of mine. I didn't pay her much, but she never wanted a check because she was so frugal. I'll save it because I just put these into this other savings account. You know, she just lived a frugal life, and so there was never pressure for her financially, and yet she didn't make any money. There was a lady that I read, I better keep going on here, but there was a lady that I read in the paper one time, and she had donated, it was like $14 million to the Albert Einstein School of Medicine in New York, okay? And that was years ago, and everyone was like, man, what did this lady do? She was a secretary in the IRS. She worked for the IRS, and she was a secretary. And all she'd do is she'd take her money, she'd give it to her broker. Broker would, you know, do the market stuff. I'm not good at the market stuff. I am good. If you ever want to know if the market's going down, call me and say, Finlinson, are you going in? Yeah, in short, because the market's going down. You know what I'm saying? So I try to stick with real estate. But she just put money in the stock market, and when she got older, she's like, oh, I've got all this money, I'm going to start giving it away. So anyway, what I'm trying to tell you is, forget the fancy cars, forget the everything like that, and just focus on making a stable lifestyle. My friend Dave Knight, he went into O.C. Tanner's office one day, and he was going to write him a letter of recommendation to get into Stanford. And he started talking to him, and just giving him some advice. And he says, whatever you do, solidify your base, and then you can do anything you want if you solidify your base. And solidifying your base doesn't mean a big mansion somewhere necessarily. It could mean a modest house that's paid off, the bills are paid off, that blah, 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 blah. And he said, O.C. Tanner said, you know, I don't even like the jewelry business. I'm like, he said that? He goes, oh yeah, I said that. He said, what I really like to do is design fountains and give them away. And he goes, that's what and he brought him over to his desk, and he had these big drawings for these big fountains. And if you look at a lot of the fountains in Salt Lake and the surrounding areas, O.C. Tanner designed them and paid for them, and that's what he loved doing. But he was telling my dear friend, the most important thing you can do is solidify your base. Okay? And you do that by living within your means or living under your means. A friend of mine called me the other day, hey, the bank says that I can afford this big huge house. I go, well, let me do the numbers on that. That puts you at 50% loan to value. I said, our banks won't lend on that. Well, we found a bank that will. So, you shouldn't be doing that. You should be looking in the other direction. The same way you're looking at this building right here and saying, oh, it's worth this. You should be looking in the other direction saying, no, to me it's worth that. Okay? And the same thing with your lifestyle. I don't care what the bank says. What does your checkbook say? And how frugal are you living? Now, does that mean you sit around and eat rice and beans? Rice and beans? It might be. It might be. But solidify your base. Okay? I was in a, I should tell this story because it's being recorded, so I'll go to the next story. But rice and beans, rice and beans. I will tell this story because we have a few minutes. Okay? I was in a meeting, okay, and a group of people had been brought together to help this individual who was a great guy on how to keep his house. Okay? On how to keep his house. Because he'd been in the negatives all the time. All the time, in the negatives. And the guy that was leading the discussion, you know, everybody was saying, well, what would you do? And the guy was sitting right there. And they came to me and says, what would you do, Finlinson? And I said, well, you know, I love you, good man, but I said, let me tell you, you're living above your means. What you need to do is sell your house, move in a mobile home. Once you get established, then come out of that mobile home, move into an apartment. He lived in a big, beautiful house, eye on the hill. And I said, but you need to start with selling your home and moving into a trailer, or whatever it is that you can really, truly afford. And there was probably 10 people in the room. And I said, that's what you need to do, because they were all looking at it like, oh, well, let's see if we can get more income here, get more income here, blah, blah, blah. I said, no, that's not the trick. But the deal is that you need to change your lifestyle to what you can afford. And it might require a mobile home at this point. Which there's nothing wrong with a mobile home. I'm not being critical of mobile homes. And then everybody in the audience just froze. And I'm like, oh boy, Finlinson, you need to just learn to zip the old mouth room. And then all of a sudden, okay, after what seemed like an eternity, Gil Miller, who was sitting next to me, said, rice and beans, rice and beans, rice and beans. I'm like, oh, she saved me. You know, because the pause was so long. But she had the right attitude. Rice and beans, rice and beans, rice and beans. And if that's what it takes to get everybody in this room and in this audience financially stable, then that's what you need. These are uncertain times. I mean, I'm in bed by 10 o'clock every night. And last night I'm up at 3 o'clock. Wow. What are these results? You know what I'm saying? And these are uncertain times. They're uncertain times. And the only way that you can feel good about things if you're totally prepared in your financial circle. And it doesn't mean a lot of money. It can be rice and beans, rice and beans. Well, I'm going to wake up in the morning after this election or after this riot or whatever, and I know that no one's gonna come knocking at my door because I'm eating rice and beans, or whatever. You know, that's what I'm trying to tell you, is to do that. And always try to live below, you know, if this building is generating X amount of money, you've got to be putting away. You can't just go buy a new Honda Element. Well, okay, I'm going to wrap it up here and then I'll open it up for questions. But I still want somebody to tell me what this painting's of.
Can you guys see it okay? Yeah, you can come first. Here, I'll be there.
Now, let me tell you something. I'll tell you how famous this painting is, okay? I don't know if any of you know Scott Anderson. Jess Lee, his wife, was on the board here, was one of your trustees. And I was sitting next to him one day, and he's the CEO of Zions Bank, so he buys all the artwork for all of the branches, and he's the patron saint of the art world. He's an amazing man. He's just a wonderful man. But I whipped out my phone. I said, "Hey, Scott," and I was bragging a little bit. "Hey, Scott, look what I bought this week." And he looked at it and he goes, and he knew exactly what it was. I won't tell you because then I'll take the 20. Okay? He knew exactly what it was. And so if you look right here, you can kind of see the logo. But I'm going to give you some more hints. Okay? And only because I want you to remember that story. Okay? It's a hamburger place down on 4th. Oh! Who said Hires? There you go.
You give something.
Who else says Hires?
Somebody say Hires.
Did somebody else say? You did?
There you go. I said it now.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna. That's from the Hires hamburger stand. Hamburgers at 4th.
Now I remember.
Okay. And it was there for years. It's the most magnificent painting. If you ever want to see it, just peek in the window of this building right here, where my office is right there. And it's all lit up at night, and because it's a wonderful deal. Okay, I am now going to open up for questions. If there are any questions, or and there's no questions that I won't answer in a legitimate or otherwise way. Yes.
I know a lot of people are saying, don't pay off your mortgage, invest it, because you can make more in the stock market than you're paying in interest. And so, but then there are other people that say, pay off your mortgage as fast as you can so you're safe.
Yeah.
How would you feel about that?
That question is a great question. And people ask me that all the time. And people are always looking for investment advice. And I'm not really, you know, I'm really good at real estate, but I'm not good at the stock market. But I will say this, and the best way I can explain that is go get a car and finance it, okay? And then go get a car that's paid off, okay? And the car that's paid off, you don't ever worry about. You don't ever worry about it. And the car that's not paid off, regardless of the payment, you know, you're always worrying about it. Oh, I got to send that in the bank. And it doesn't, even though the interest rates are almost at zero, this is just my opinion, it's better to pay off. Because when the earth's a-rocking, and it's been rocking, this year I've had my basement's flooded up to here. They totally gutted it out, the insurance company. The wind blew, and I had big trees fall on my roof. You know, the COVID thing, and then the earth's going like this every night. Oh, it's enough to put me. And I'm just telling you, if all these things are coming about, and something's free and clear, you're much safer. And it kind of comes back a little bit to the government deal. A lot of people will say, well, I get to take, you know, the interest rate on my house. That's leaning on the government again. They can change that anytime they want. But my advice is pay off as fast, as quick as you can. You can make payments twice a month to a lot of banks, and that will reduce. You can go 15 years, and that will reduce. Or you can go 30 years and make 15-year payments, like you have a 15-year loan. But there's nothing better. I've got probably 19 properties that I don't worry much about. You know what I'm saying? And if you don't worry much about them, it's usually, when I say worry about them, you don't have to worry about the banks, you don't have to worry about this, that, and the other. My advice is always to pay off. But that doesn't mean, you know, if you look at the stock market 10 years ago, everybody lost 50%. If you look at it this time around, it was 30%. And it'll slowly eke its way out of that. But, you know, paying off your house or losing 50% of what you put in is never a good solution for long-term stability. There's a question.
So when you're buying something, you said my negotiation starts from zero, but when you go look for a job and your potential employer asks you, how much
Oh yeah. See, and I'm an extravagant guy in some ways, and when I say that, I'm never going to do the basic standard. So if you're going in for a job and you know it's paying, you know, $30,000, I go in and say, and if they ask you, I'd say, oh, I'm a $40,000 guy. You see what I'm saying? And then they may kick you back, but if I find if there's something to the power of thought, okay? And the power of thought, my dad used to do this to me, it drove me crazy. He would say, hey, Mark, you need to think about doing this. Well, I'm not doing that. And then I'd think about it the next day, think about it the next day. Oh, maybe I ought to do that. Maybe I ought to do that. And so it's the power of thought. My office manager, she drives me crazy because she's the same way. Hey, you know, I just did this great thing with this great tenant. You know, I think that deserves a bonus. Well, why does that deserve a bonus? Because I made you money. And today I gave her $200 just on that very basis. I would have never given her a nickel extra. But she said to me, you know, I made you a lot of money and you were over in California on the beach. And I'm like, oh, well, okay. You see what I'm saying? So if you're negotiating in that way, then you're taking this same concept just the other way. Hey, I'm your $100,000 guy, but I'm willing to take 40. Oh, it's only 30? Well, I'm willing to do that. I'm willing to take 30 with a commission. Okay? 30 with a commission. The first job that I had when I came into town, it paid me $14,000 a year, plus commission. $14,000 a year. And like I said, that's years ago. And I'm like, and it was a big reduction when I got out of college. You know, when I got out of college, this real estate developer offered me about $25,000 a year. And I thought, man, I made it big. Because the lawyers were getting $19,000. So I thought, wow. You know, and then I came up to Utah and took $14,000. But there were commissions. And in the end, they ended up making more than the president of savings alone.
Yeah. So I just am curious about which you prefer, like if you're doing some mortgage loan, FLM or the PIC store adjustable.
Say that again. I'm with the mask. I'm having a hard time.
Okay, so now as a lot of happen like COVID or so we don't know what's going on later. So it's very attack the economic system a little bit because all economy is stuck. So if you gonna do like some mortgage mortgage loan, okay, you're gonna do fixed or
More deals?
yeah, and what kind of deal you want, like in the fixed or I forgot the word.
Variable.
Fixed or variable?
Yeah,
Oh, right now, you go fixed as long as you can. As long as you can. Unfortunately, on commercial buildings, they go out 5 to 10 years. So you can't get them long. But in homes, you can get them for 30 years at, like I say, 2.5%. And you just have to be careful that you don't get, you don't get over your head on that, because if values go down, you don't want to be stuck. If you pay off though, it's not going to matter to you. If you pay off. And when I say it's not going to matter to you, if you, like I say, if you have that car and it's free and clear, and you take a little bite on it, it doesn't hurt you nearly as bad as if you have a mortgage on it. You have to come up with money for the bank. So that's good. Any other questions?
Well, you mentioned your tip for success.
Oh, yeah.
Secret to success.
Oh, man, I'm so glad that you reminded me of that. I apologize to everybody here. I'll take the 20 for that. Let me tell you, the secret of success, and this, I promise you, this is the secret of success. It's doing the same thing over and over and over again. That is the secret of success. And there's no magic thing. You know, people come to me and say, hey, I want to get into real estate. You know, it looked easy on cable. And no, I get up at 6 in the morning and work. And then at the end of the day, I'm like, okay, I've learned a lot. The next day you get up, 6 more, blah, blah, blah. And it's just a lot of work. I have a friend, Pepper Murray. And Pepper is, boy, on this video thing, who knows who's going to get a copy.
It'll go viral, I'm sure.
But Pepper Murray, he's a fantastic surgeon guy, okay? And I use this example because he's worked on a lot of my kids, and because they're snowboarders and skiers and all this stuff. And so he's always fixing their joints, but he fixes joints. Went to Harvard. He did his internship at the Mayo Clinic. Very well-respected guy. But every day he does the same thing. And I watched him as he worked on my kids, and he has 2 operating rooms on his operating day. Okay? He has 2 operating rooms. He comes into one, they've prepped it, he comes in, operates on, okay, looks good. Comes over to the next operating room over here where they're all ready. Okay, looks good. Comes back over here where that thing has gone, that patient, has gone, and then he just back and forth. And so you go into Pepper's office, and where a lot of surgeons will say, oh yeah, I can do that in 2 months. Pepper's like, I'll do that this week. Okay, and he's a great surgeon because he does the same thing over and over and over again. And that's the secret of success. And it doesn't matter if you are an engineer, if you're a teacher, if you're in public relations, if you do the same thing over and over and over again, that's the secret of success. You will automatically get better and better. If you're a mechanic and you do it over and over and over again, you will be a success, and that's the secret of success. There's no such thing that I'm aware of just sitting around and being a real successful guy or a successful girl. You have to do it over and over again. It doesn't matter what you're doing. Same thing. Any other questions? All right, I'm going to You did say hires. If you want to give one of these students, then you give the sentence. Or go over to the student hall and he's buying sodas for everyone.
I was thinking Lisa's Pizza.
Pizza, pizza, yeah, wow, he's gonna buy the Lisa's pizza.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate your attendance and your attention, you're great. And I'm so thankful that I got to spend time